Get ready to uncover how schools manipulate students' thoughts, stifle their potential, and how politicians steal money in the future of America from kids. Welcome to the JB Sill Show.
All right, welcome to Operation Anti-Indoctrination. I'm your host, JB. It's great to be here today on a Thursday, epic, awesome Thursday, although I may or may not be recording this on Sunday night, having a pretty cool week, being homeschooled, right? This is my first ever week of homeschooling, and I gotta say, it is a whole lot better than going to public school, I gotta tell you. And I'm saying this, by the way, I'm saying this as somebody who likes socializing, who isn't like an introvert. I know it may kind of appear that way because of how much research I do, but I'm actually more of an extrovert. But it's just so much better, being at home. And I'm not even doing the best kind of public schooling. What I'm doing, or homeschooling, what I'm doing is kind of public school light, you could say, but this is so much better. So that's pretty awesome, That's pretty cool. We got some epic news today. We got some not so epic news today. Really looking forward to getting into it. Hope you're having a good week, We could all use a good week right now this year. We could all use a nice week. I know I could, but anyway, let's get into it here. So, first from Business Insider. Trump threatens to investigate and pull federal funding from schools that teach New York Times' 1619 project on the consequences of slavery. That's the headline there. Yes! Yes! Thank you. Thank you. Very awesome. We do not like the 1619 project. We hate this. Maybe not hate, but we intensely dislike the 1619 project because it is trying to divide our nation. It is trying to start a race war. It is trying to divide Americans. It is trying to reopen old wounds. That is the 1619 project. That's what it's about, where it is propagating this false narrative that America is founded on slavery and racism. Totally false. We've debunked it before. Historians have debunked it before. It's not true. We did not secede from Great Britain to preserve slavery. We did not secede from Great Britain to preserve racism. We actually seceded from Great Britain to attain liberty. That's why. But they'll never tell you that in school. In fact, in school, they'll tell you to be ashamed of your history unless you're in one of their key, we'll just say races or ethnicities. Unless you're in one of those key ethnicities, you are to be ashamed of your history. You are not to be proud of it. So, yes, President Trump, he says that he is going to implore his Department of Education to investigate the 1619 project, which is awesome, I have my own opinions on the president just like everyone else, but I'll say this is pretty good, Pretty awesome here. It's an awful idea, the 1619 project. Awful ideas, completely debunked. Even they've had to apologize for a couple of things that they've said, which have just been completely outlandish. They've had to apologize for a lot of what they've said, and President Trump saying that the Department of Education is looking into it, and if so, if he finds that schools are using it, which they are, then these schools will not receive federal funding. Now, federal funding does make up, in general, a fairly small amount of public school funding, but it is still a very significant amount, so this is really a step in the right direction, in my opinion, because this is, the 1619 project is evil. It really is evil. I don't know how else to characterize it. It is an attempt to reopen old wounds. That's the best way to describe it. It is an attempt to reopen old wounds, to divide America, to divide Americans among racial lines. Why do we want that? Why would we want that? I thought we were supposed to be past all that, but I guess not, because these radicals want to continue it. These radicals want to continue this division and this insanity. So, that's pretty awesome. That's really awesome, not gonna lie. I got a kick out of this story. Hopefully this is a step in the right direction. I'm looking forward to seeing the 1619 project gone from our school system. I hope that President Trump is not just bluffing. I hope he's serious about this. You never know, but we'll see what happens. That's all we can do is wait. It just makes you think about the election that's coming up, by the way. This is going to be a fun election. Gosh. I'll be surprised if we're like still a unified country in any way by the end of the year. I'm just saying that. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna have secessions, but some seriously considering it, because this is not a good situation we're in. But anyway, I guess that's not my forte, that topic there. So we can move on to some more good news. We love good news here. We have from the Texas Tribune, quote, Texas is revising its sex education standards, but they'll likely remain silent on LGBTQ. Okay. So the Texas Board of Education is going to revise their sex ed standards, where hopefully it'll get better, although it could also get worse. I guess they're doing some hearings on LGBTQ issues. I guess they're gonna probably hold firm on that. We won't be learning about all these sexual orientations, which are, lovely stuff, right? And their board does look to be a little more conservative, so interesting little story there where, what we think. We are conservatives on this issue. We do not like sex ed. We want it gone. It's not the school's job in any way. There is, they have no business doing it. They have absolutely no business in the sex ed area, even in health class. I think the whole thing is just messed up. I think it honestly probably makes drug use worse instead of better, which I guess was the official intent. It just makes everything worse. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What do we have here? So, as if education wasn't already austere enough, we have, again from the Texas Tribune, the headline is, many Texas students will return to classrooms Tuesday. Little will be normal. Yes. So, again, as if our education system wasn't already terrible, austere, rigid enough, it's, they can always make it worse. They can always make it a little worse, right? You can always make things a little bit worse. And that's this whole new social distancing. You're having to wear a mask for 7 hours a day now. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think kindergarteners are going to be very happy about wearing a mask for 7 hours a day. I mean, that's just my general feeling on the matter, Could be wrong, but I don't really think that 7-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 5-year-olds are going to be that thrilled about wearing a mask. I'm not going to be that thrilled about wearing a mask for 7 hours. I think the longest I've gone wearing a mask is probably like 2 hours without any breaks. Probably 2 hours, maybe 3, and I'm a whole lot older than 6, But they're doing, a lot of schools are doing in-person, and there's masks, there's social distancing. I mean, you can't even talk to your friends. So the only good part about school is gone, the socializing thing. At least it could be viewed as a good thing. I don't know if it actually is when you take into account the sinister motives behind it all. But on the surface, the only good thing is gone. I don't know if that's going to drive kids less insane, but I mean, that just seems terrible, Just sitting there all day as if it wasn't already bad enough. And also, if you're at home, by the way, just so you know, if you're a parent listening to this, I want to warn you here. Because what most districts are doing is they're giving kids free Chromebooks for the year, right? They're issuing them Chromebooks with cameras for little like Zoom call things, right? Fair warning, the Chromebooks if your kid is not using a Chromebook, right? Do not have it out in the open, because the schools have been caught spying on you. I don't know if I can find it now, but the schools have been caught, districts have been caught in the past multiple times, red-handed spying on kids, because that's how the schools work. They want to inquire into what you're doing. They want to inquire into every bit of your life, because they, that's just what they do. They've wanted to be doing this for decades now. They've been working on this for decades, going back to the 1950s. And okay, so I have an article here. School-issued devices are spying on your children from the Advocate. Some interesting stuff here. You could look it up yourself. But they are spying on your kids. They have been caught red-handed doing this. And only 3 states have legislation to protect your privacy, to protect the privacy of your kids, meaning it's not even illegal in many cases. It's not even really illegal. So they can do whatever they want, right? They'll do whatever they want, and you can't stop them in most cases. So put tape over it, put it in a box, put it in a drawer, do something, because they are coming for your kids. They will spy on them. They will look in on them. They will do anything to them. They will do anything to attain power over them. All right, that's not so good news there. That's something I'm a little concerned about that I have not seen anyone bring up recently. But I guess we got to move on here. So I wanted to talk about some really important history that I've been doing some research into, reading a lot of the stuff on. This is really disgusting what the schools are doing here, but you have to listen to this. You have to hear this because it's so important to understanding what's going on in the classroom. So we need to talk about a guy named Edward Lee Thorndike. Now, he's celebrated as the father of educational psychology. He's hailed by the American Psychological Association and all those other left-wing groups. He's hailed as the father of educational psychology, the guy that enhanced education, supposedly. The guy that wanted the great education, right? This guy was the man, right? He was the man. So, Edward Thorndike. Let's little bit of background info here, because he is the guy that is the reason for our modern teaching methods, which fail so much. He was born in the year 1874. He died in the year 1949. Sorry, and he was immediately into the academic world. He went to Wesleyan University. He went to Harvard University. He went to Columbia Teachers College, where he spent the rest of his career. He wrote many books, the most famous of them being Animal Intelligence, probably, followed by I think it's called The Principles of Teaching Psychology or something. Those are probably the most famous ones, where he wrote all about this, where he wrote all about animals and students and teaching. And he was really, if you read the stuff he writes, he comes off as really nefarious and very, very sinister. So while he was at Harvard University, Thorndike he spent most of his time there experimenting on chickens, and this would come to be called animal psychology. Now, Thorndike believed that this animal experimentation, all right, would pave the way for a golden age, if you will, of education, of teaching, of pedagogy, of teaching kids to supposedly become their best self, right? So he compared kids to animals. I'll quote from him in his book Animal Intelligence. He says, quote, "The best way with children may often be, in the pompous words of an animal trainer, to arrange everything in connection with the trick, so that the animal will be compelled by the laws of its own nature to perform it," unquote. So basically, you need to play a little game where you have to arrange everything in the right way so that the kid will eat it up little by little, right? So you can indoctrinate them little by little. And through this, he helped form new progressive schools. The Lincoln School, the laboratory school at the University of Chicago, where this was tried out in a prototype way, where kids were treated like animals. Literally, they were taught the same way you teach a mouse, the same way you teach animals. They're not taught as rational human beings. They're not taught as people. They're taught as mice, as rats, as monkeys. That's how they're taught. Now, how do they justify this? How does one justify teaching kids like animals? Now, that is a fun question, which Thorndike would have answered by referring you to Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Now, look, I'd like to tread lightly a little bit here, because I'm not actually a creationist. I don't know that creationism and evolution are mutually exclusive, but I don't believe in. I'm not at least pure. I'm not a pure creationist. I believe in evolution, basically. But the theory of evolution basically saying we're all evolved from in the same way, so we're all basically very similar. So it's fine if you do experiments on rats and monkeys and then expand it on a macro level to doing that with kids, to teaching kids the same way you teach animals. Now the way we do this, in the most common way we do this is stuff like bells, with stimuli, where you have bells and announcements and testing, kind of like what they do with animals, being brainwashed to say, oh, you can do this now, but you can't do this. You can walk, but you can't run. You can't be creative. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to listen. You have to sit in your chair all day. No, you have to focus. You can't learn. You can't educate yourself. You can't pursue your own learning. You can't show initiative. You can't apply yourself. It's all the do's and don'ts, and then, of course, the constant testing, conditioning, bells, announcements, all the stuff that they do on animals. They do this on animals. I can't believe nobody makes this connection. We teach young kids the exact same way we teach rats to do certain things. We break their will, but we first break their will. We drive them, we make them disorganized and insane, and then we treat them like animals. We do, constant testing, the announcements, the do's and don'ts, the bells, all this stuff. So that's how you do it. And I want to quote from Thorndike again in another book of his, The Principles of Teaching in Psychology, or I think that's what it's called. He says, quote, using psychological terms, the art of teaching may be defined as the art of giving and withholding stimuli as the result of producing or preventing certain responses. In this definition, the term stimulus is used widely for any event which influences a person, for a word spoken to him, a look, a sentence which he reads, the air he breathes, etc., etc. The aim of the teacher is to produce desirable and prevent undesirable changes in human beings by producing and preventing certain responses, unquote. I don't know what kind of accent I was going for there, but anyway, I think that's pretty clear. So basically, this new way of teaching, instead of old-fashioned educating, this new way of teaching is where you're going to it's like a little game of stimuli where you're going to be stimulated to do this. Literally, this is, I mean, I know it sounds kind of creepy, but kids are being stimulated to do certain things to produce desirable reactions in like a little laboratory game here, like you do with a mouse, a rat, a monkey, anything, but not kids. You're not supposed to do this with kids, but this was all justified because they weaponized Darwin's theory of evolution. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong, but they weaponized it. Anything can be weaponized. They weaponized Darwin's theory of evolution to justify treating children like animals. They are literally in school. When you send your kid off to school, I don't want you to feel guilty about this, but when you send your kid off to school, they are in a little game which neither the kid doesn't know they're playing and the teacher doesn't know they're playing either. The teacher's been just as conditioned as the kid. But they're playing a little game of withholding and giving stimuli to produce their desirable reactions that were envisioned by these progressive psychologists in the early 1900s, where they actually wanted these kids to be made into their perfect human beings through this little game of stimuli. Because that was all that they didn't care about literacy, they didn't care about math, they didn't care about any of the subjects. They just cared about stimuli, about stimulating the right responses, which would then in turn, form perfect human beings for their little utopian ideologies. That was the goal. That has always been the goal, no matter what anyone else tells you, no matter what the politicians tell you, no matter what the pundits tell you, no matter what the ideologues tell you. The goal of public school is to give an education. The goal is to make them into what these psychologists wanted, to make them, they knew how to do it. They knew how to do this. They were the smartest people of their generation. They knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't ignorant. They weren't just playing around, like, who knows? What if we do this? They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew how to cause these behavioral disabilities. They knew how to cause this harm to your children. They knew how to do it. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly how to cause behavioral disabilities. So, yeah. That was fun. Ugh, I really don't like the public school system. I don't know if you could tell, but not a big fan. Not a big fan at all. Yeah. Well, it's like 20 minutes later. I gotta go to sleep soon here, so I guess I should be wrapping this thing up. We're at like 20 minutes, so. Anyway, if you have any questions, you can email me, jbsoulshow@gmail.com. Please do, if you're on YouTube, subscribe and leave a like on the video. If you're watching on something else, you can share it. Just share it with a friend. Share it with your parents or your you could share it with your I don't know, your aunt. Share it with your aunt. Share this video with your aunt. That's what you should do today. That'd be really nice. I'd appreciate that. Anyway, until next time, I've been your host, JV. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.